There are moments in life that arrive quietly and yet change everything. They do not come with loud announcements, dramatic conversations, or obvious signs. They appear softly, almost unnoticed, like a light turning on in a dark room. One simple realization can transform the way a person sees another human being. Nothing may seem different on the surface, yet something important has shifted beneath it all. Last night, your soulmate may have discovered a truth about you. It was not a fact written in a book. It was not information shared in a conversation. It was not something they learned from another person. It was something they felt. Something they recognized deep within themselves. And whether you realize it or not, that recognition may have changed the connection between you. Carl Jung believed that the deepest bonds between people do not begin with words. They begin in the unconscious mind. According to Jung, every person carries hidden parts of themselves. Some parts are shared openly with the world. Some parts are protected. Others remain hidden even from the person who carries them. Real connection begins when someone sees beyond appearances. It begins when another soul recognizes something authentic behind the roles, habits, and masks that people wear every day. Sometimes, the most powerful moments in a relationship happen when someone finally sees who you truly are beneath everything you show the world. Something may have shifted last night. A truth that had always been present may have finally come into view. Perhaps that truth was not about perfection. Perhaps it was the realization that your strength comes from your struggles. Perhaps they saw that your kindness was shaped by difficult experiences. Maybe they recognized that your quiet nature hides a depth that most people never notice. People often believe they understand others based only on what they can see. They judge by actions, appearances, and first impressions. Yet the unconscious mind notices much more. It observes patterns, emotions, energy, and meaning that are often impossible to explain with words. Jung explored the idea that relationships act as mirrors. They reveal not only who we love, but also who we are becoming. When someone connected to your soul discovers a deeper truth about you, they are also discovering something within themselves. That realization changes both people. It creates movement where there was once stillness. It opens doors that were previously closed. It brings awareness into places that had remained hidden. Maybe your soulmate realized that your silence was never distance. Maybe they finally understood that your quiet moments were filled with reflection rather than withdrawal. Perhaps they saw that your independence was not coldness. It was self-respect. It was the result of learning how to stand on your own while remaining true to yourself. Maybe they recognized that beneath your calm appearance exists a person who has carried responsibilities without seeking praise. A person who has faced challenges without demanding recognition. A person who continued moving forward even when life became difficult. Sometimes people do not understand the value of a soul until they begin to see the story hidden beneath the surface. Jung believed that individuation, the journey of becoming your true self, is one of the most important processes in life. Along this path, people respond in different ways. Some move away because they are attached to the version of you they imagined. Others move closer because they finally see who you really are. A soulmate connection is not built on illusion. It grows stronger when truth enters the relationship. It survives because authenticity replaces assumption. It deepens because reality becomes more meaningful than fantasy. What changed last night may not be visible yet. Inner transformations often happen silently. They begin as shifts in awareness before they become actions. A person may develop a new level of respect. They may feel a deeper sense of curiosity. They may experience a stronger emotional connection. They may suddenly realize that what once seemed ordinary is actually rare. Human beings are transformed not only by events, but by meaning. Life changes when someone finally sees your true self and chooses to remain present. Not because you became more successful, not because you became more attractive, not because you became perfect, but because authenticity carries a power that cannot be replaced. Jung taught that what remains unconscious eventually seeks expression. Truth always finds a way to rise to the surface. So if something feels different now, there may be a reason for that feeling. Some changes begin long before words are spoken. Some discoveries happen in complete silence. Sometimes, all it takes is one truth revealed at exactly the right moment to alter the course of a relationship forever. There are experiences in life that cannot be fully explained through logic. They arrive quietly, without warning, and yet they leave a lasting impact. Last night may have been one of those experiences. Somewhere beyond ordinary conversation, beyond expectations and appearances, your soulmate may have discovered something important about you. Not a truth created by assumptions, not a story built from imagination, but something real. Something that had been present all along. Perhaps they saw beyond the image you present to the world. Perhaps they recognized the person who exists underneath years of growth, lessons, disappointments, hopes, and experiences. The moment that truth became clear, their perception began to change. Carl Jung believed that human beings spend much of their lives operating through a persona. A persona is the version of ourselves that we present to society. It helps us function in daily life. It allows us to adapt to different situations. It serves a purpose. But behind every persona exists another self, a deeper self. A self that contains fears, dreams, memories, wounds, strengths, and truths that are rarely shared completely. Most people never look beyond the surface. They remain comfortable with what is visible. They accept appearances as reality. Yet some connections are different. Some people feel drawn toward what cannot immediately be seen. Your soulmate may have sensed something deeper. Perhaps they realized that your quiet moments were never empty. They were filled with thought and understanding. Maybe they saw that your restraint was not emotional distance, but wisdom gained through experience. Perhaps they recognized that your calmness did not come from a lack of feeling. It came from learning how to carry emotions with dignity, rather than displaying them for approval. Jung believed that the unconscious mind communicates constantly. It speaks through emotions, patterns, symbols, and instincts. Long before people fully understand each other with words, they often feel truths on an emotional level. This is why someone can suddenly wake up and see another person differently. Nothing changes externally. No dramatic event takes place. Yet internally, a new understanding arrives. Perhaps that is what happened last night. Maybe your soulmate finally noticed the effort you never spoke about. Maybe they recognized the battles you fought privately. Maybe they understood that your strength was not created by comfort, but by surviving experiences that could have broken you. They may have realized that your kindness was not weakness. Your patience was not passivity. Your loyalty was not convenience. They may have seen that beneath what appeared simple was something extraordinary. Once someone sees your deeper nature, it becomes impossible to return to old assumptions. Truth changes perception forever. Jung taught that growth often begins when illusion ends. We are transformed not because reality changes, but because we finally become aware of what was already there. Your soulmate may have discovered that you were never trying to convince anyone of your worth. You simply remained authentic while others misunderstood you. There is power in people who do not demand recognition. Their truth waits patiently until someone is ready to see it. And perhaps that is exactly what happened. Not a magical event, not a dramatic sign from fate, not a sudden miracle, something even more powerful: recognition. Because one of the deepest truths about human connection is that people are transformed when they finally see each other clearly. Last night, your soulmate may have stopped seeing who they expected you to be and finally began seeing who you truly are. And once that kind of awareness appears, nothing remains exactly the same. They begin to listen differently. They notice details they once ignored. They pay attention to small things that previously seemed unimportant. They start seeing meaning where they once saw ordinary behavior. Often, the deepest truth they discover is not dramatic at all. It is the realization that you were genuine from the beginning. They begin to understand that your actions reflected your heart. They see that your presence carried more meaning than your words. While many people tried to impress others, you simply remained yourself. You did not build your value around appearances. You did not depend on constant attention. You allowed your character to speak for itself. Relationships built on assumptions often become fragile. They depend on expectations that may never match reality. But relationships built on truth become stronger with time. Truth removes illusion. It replaces guessing with understanding. It allows people to see each other clearly. When someone truly sees another person, the connection changes. It becomes less about expectations and more about acceptance. Less about fantasy and more about reality. Less about trying to fit an image and more about appreciating what is genuinely there. Last night may not have seemed extraordinary from the outside. There may have been no visible signs, no special message, no dramatic conversation, no event that attracted attention. Yet inside someone's heart, a new understanding may have appeared. And once truth enters a connection, everything begins moving in a different direction. Carl Jung believed that some of the most important discoveries in life are not made alone. They are discovered through relationships. Human beings often learn who they are by seeing themselves reflected in other people. Relationships are not simply meetings between separate individuals. They become mirrors. They reveal hidden parts of ourselves that have been waiting to be recognized. This was one of Jung's deepest ideas. The people who affect us most strongly are often showing us something about ourselves. Sometimes they reveal strengths we forgot we possessed. Sometimes they expose fears we tried to avoid. Sometimes they awaken qualities that have been asleep for years. Last night, your soulmate may not have simply discovered a truth about you. They may have discovered a truth about themselves through you. That realization has the power to change everything. Most people believe they know themselves. They define themselves through routines, responsibilities, achievements, and personal history. They create a picture of who they are and carry it through life. But Jung believed that a large part of every person remains hidden beneath awareness. Because of this, people often carry strengths they have never recognized. They carry fears they do not fully understand. They carry desires they cannot easily explain. These hidden parts remain beneath the surface until something brings them into awareness. Sometimes another person becomes the reason those hidden parts emerge. Your soulmate may have looked at you and realized that your presence awakened something within them. Not because you created it, but because you revealed what was already there. Perhaps your patience showed them how restless they had become. Perhaps your sincerity made them question the roles they had been playing. Perhaps your emotional depth helped them recognize how long they had been living on the surface of life. Jung believed that strong emotional reactions often indicate that something important is happening in the unconscious mind. Sometimes people admire someone because that person possesses qualities they secretly wish to develop. Other times they resist someone because that person reflects truths they are not yet ready to face. In both situations, the other person becomes a mirror. Maybe your soulmate realized that the peace they had been searching for outside themselves appeared whenever they thought about you. Maybe they understood that your authenticity exposed how exhausting constant performance had become in their own life. Maybe they discovered that what attracted them most was not perfection. It was honesty. It was truth. It was the feeling that they could finally stop pretending. Jung often spoke about the shadow. The shadow represents the hidden parts of ourselves that we ignore, suppress, or fail to recognize. Relationships frequently bring these hidden areas into awareness. Someone who truly sees us can reveal strengths we underestimated. They can expose fears we avoided. They can encourage growth in ways we never expected. This is why meaningful connections often feel transformative. Your soulmate may have realized that every conversation with you carried more significance than they originally admitted. They may have noticed that your quiet confidence challenged their insecurities. They may have recognized that your ability to exist without constantly seeking approval made them question their own dependence on validation. The remarkable thing about a mirror is that it does not create anything new. It simply reveals what already exists. That is why these moments feel so powerful. Nothing actually changed overnight. You remained the same person. Your values remained the same. Your character remained the same. Your experiences remained the same. What changed was awareness. And once awareness enters a relationship, everything begins moving differently. People become more attentive. They become more thoughtful. They notice details they once overlooked. They stop reacting to assumptions and start responding to reality. Jung believed that becoming whole requires seeing ourselves honestly. Sometimes that process cannot happen alone. Sometimes another person becomes the reflection that allows us to recognize what has been hidden. Last night, your soulmate may have looked at you and unexpectedly found a deeper understanding of themselves. Carl Jung believed that one of the greatest struggles in life is the conflict between who we truly are and who we think we must become in order to be accepted. From a young age, people learn to adapt. They learn what earns approval. They learn what gains attention. They learn which parts of themselves should be displayed and which parts should remain hidden. Over time, many people create identities designed to satisfy expectations. They become more agreeable, more impressive, more controlled, more successful, more guarded. They believe these qualities will bring connection, admiration, and love. Eventually, some become so attached to these identities that they lose touch with who they really are underneath. Jung believed that real transformation begins when a person stops trying to appear complete and starts becoming authentic. Last night, your soulmate may have discovered something unexpected about you. They may have realized that your power never came from perfection, it came from truth. In a world where many people work hard to appear flawless, authenticity becomes rare. People often present edited versions of themselves. They display confidence while hiding uncertainty. They showcase achievements while concealing struggle. They protect their image because they fear rejection. Yet Jung suggested a different path. He believed that becoming whole does not mean becoming perfect. It means becoming real. Perhaps your soulmate suddenly understood that you were never trying to perform. You were never trying to create an image large enough to impress everyone around you. Instead, you stayed connected to yourself. You allowed your experiences to shape you naturally. You learned from life without turning every lesson into a performance. You carried wisdom quietly. You moved forward without demanding recognition. And maybe that realization changed everything. Authenticity affects people in unexpected ways. At first, it is often misunderstood. Genuine people are sometimes called distant because they do not chase attention. They are called complicated because they refuse to simplify themselves for approval. They are called quiet because they choose reflection over noise. But over time, authenticity reveals a strength that cannot be imitated. Your soulmate may have realized that your honesty was more attractive than perfection. They may have noticed that your calm presence created more trust than promises ever could. They may have discovered that your imperfections did not weaken your character. They made it human. They made it believable. They made it real. Jung spoke about individuation, the lifelong process of becoming who you truly are, rather than who the world expects you to be. This journey is not easy. Authenticity requires courage. It asks people to face uncomfortable truths. It asks them to accept contradictions within themselves. It asks them to stop relying on approval as proof of their worth. Many people spend years avoiding that journey. But when they meet someone who is already walking that path, something unusual happens. They feel relief. Authenticity gives others permission to stop pretending. Maybe last night, your soulmate realized that around you, they did not feel pressure to become someone else. They did not need to impress you. They did not need to compete. They did not need to hide parts of themselves. They felt accepted without performance. That realization changes relationships. Perfection creates distance. It makes people feel they must earn closeness. Authenticity creates connection. It allows people to arrive exactly as they are. Perhaps the greatest truth discovered last night was not that you had no flaws. It was that you never built your identity around hiding them. You accepted growth without rejecting yourself. You carried strength without needing to prove it. You remained genuine in a world that often rewards appearance over substance. Jung believed that what is real possesses a natural power. It does not need to announce itself. It does not need constant validation. It simply exists. And when someone finally recognizes authenticity in another person, they stop searching for perfection. They begin searching for truth. Carl Jung also believed that the deepest transformations rarely arrive with noise. They do not always appear through dramatic events or emotional speeches. Many of life's greatest changes begin quietly. They begin beneath awareness. They begin in thoughts that cannot yet be explained. They begin in emotions that have not yet found words. They begin in realizations that slowly reshape a person's inner world before anyone notices a change on the outside. Last night, something may have shifted, not because of what was said, but because of what was finally understood. People often expect transformation to feel immediate. They imagine life changing through major decisions, dramatic conversations, or powerful events. But Jung saw growth differently. He believed the unconscious mind is always active. It observes, it connects patterns, it creates meaning. It gathers understanding long before the conscious mind realizes what is happening. Because of this, some of the most important moments in life remain invisible at first. They begin as quiet realizations. They grow into new perspectives. They develop into deeper understanding. And eventually, they transform the way people see themselves, the way they see others, and the way they experience connection. Perhaps that is what happened last night. A truth was recognized, a deeper understanding appeared, and although the world may look exactly the same today, something meaningful has already begun to change. Perhaps nothing unusual happened on the outside. There was no unexpected message, no dramatic confession, no obvious sign that would make anyone believe something important had taken place. Life may have appeared completely normal. The same routines continued, the same conversations happened, the same world existed around them. Yet inside, something changed. A realization began to form. A truth that had been hidden beneath the surface slowly moved into awareness. What had once been easy to overlook suddenly became impossible to ignore. They may have understood something about you that had always been there. Not something new, not something that appeared overnight. Simply something that they had never fully recognized before. Carl Jung believed that every person carries inner images of the people around them. These images are rarely complete. They are shaped by personal experiences, expectations, hopes, fears, assumptions, and projections. Because of this, people do not always see each other clearly in the beginning. Instead, they often see their interpretation of another person. They see what they expect to see. They notice what confirms their beliefs. They create stories that help them make sense of what they do not yet understand. But genuine connection has a way of changing that. Over time, if the bond is real, reality slowly replaces imagination. Assumptions begin to fade. Expectations lose their power. The person behind the image becomes visible. Perhaps this is what happened last night. Your soulmate may have realized that your value was never found in obvious things. Maybe they finally understood that your strength was hidden inside your consistency. While others relied on grand gestures, you remained steady. While others changed with circumstances, you stayed true to your values. Perhaps they noticed that your calm nature was never a lack of emotion. Instead, it reflected emotional intelligence. It showed an ability to understand feelings without being controlled by them. Maybe they recognized that your silence was never emptiness. It was reflection. It was awareness. It was the ability to listen, observe, and understand before reacting. Many people misunderstand silence. They assume that quiet people have little to say. Yet often the opposite is true. The deepest thoughts are not always spoken immediately. The most meaningful understanding does not always demand attention. Your soulmate may have begun to see this. The moment someone truly sees another person, something inside them shifts. Yet transformation rarely creates immediate action. Jung believed that inner change happens in stages. First comes recognition, then comes reflection. After reflection comes acceptance, and only then does action begin to emerge. Because of this, what changes a person internally today may not become visible until much later. This is why silence should never be underestimated. Silence is where meaning organizes itself. It is where emotions become clearer. It is where confusion slowly turns into understanding. It is where truths gain strength without interference from distractions. Last night may have created a quiet movement within your soulmate's inner world. Perhaps they began remembering moments they had forgotten. Perhaps they started noticing details that once seemed unimportant. Conversations that appeared ordinary may suddenly carry new meaning. Simple interactions may now feel significant. Small gestures may now appear more valuable than they once did. Sometimes understanding arrives all at once. Other times, it unfolds gradually. A person looks back and suddenly sees a pattern that was invisible before. They realize that someone mattered more than they admitted. They recognize that certain moments carried greater importance than they originally believed. Perhaps your soulmate is experiencing something similar. Maybe they are beginning to understand that your presence affected them more deeply than they allowed themselves to acknowledge. Maybe they are realizing that your influence was never loud or dramatic. It was quiet, consistent, steady. And because it was steady, it became meaningful. Jung believed that transformation begins when unconscious truth enters conscious awareness. Once this happens, a person cannot completely return to their previous perspective. Something has changed. A new understanding exists. And that understanding continues shaping the way they see the world. Awareness changes perception. Perception changes choices. Choices eventually change behavior. This process does not happen overnight. It unfolds gradually, often without anyone noticing. Perhaps your soulmate is not changing because of a new event. Perhaps they are changing because they finally recognize something that had always been present. That is the beauty of silent transformation. Nothing appears different at first. The world looks exactly the same.